everybody, welcome to Cinema Trailer News. My name is Chris, and this will be my spoiler review for episode 1 of The Last of Us. HBO have finally dropped the first episode of The Last of Us adaptation based off the popular video game. And it was one hefty bombing episode and an hour and 20 minutes long. That was one of the most well adapted pieces of media in a long time. Now, sorry if my voice sounds a little strange, feeling a little bit of under the weather today, but my apologies for that. Now, yes, I play the two games, and I'm not going to treat this video like an Easter egg breakdown where looking for every single detail, like, oh, that was exactly like they say in the video game. No, I want this to be more of a discussion of why I think this adaptation works so well, the performances they have here, some of the changes they're making from the game into this adaptation. Now, The Last of Us, the first game, was amazing, masterful, and The Last of Us 2 was heartbreaking. It broke my heart in so many ways, in so many afflicting emotion, and I can't wait to they adapt that one. Now, bringing back to the pilot episode again, they just nailed it. So we start off with an opening in 1968 where a couple of scientists are talking about a possible pandemic future and of the war, and while we shall be worried, and this was honestly a clever way to start off the show because it gives a good lane of the groundwork of what exactly the virus in The Last of Us world is. And I love how they talk about the cordyceps virus and it's a real world inspiration, because I think some of us have seen the video of a snail or some insects that gets taken over by this fungus, and the way they try to ground that with some climate change, the world getting warmer, even just as timely as it is with the way they just handle the pandemic as a society, is one of the great things that separate the show from the video game. Because even if you play the first Last of Us game, you may not totally understand the virus itself. You know, it's kind of like a fungal infection type of thing, but unless you really take the time to look at the details of the game, pick up a newspaper, read some articles, you won't get the full story of what exactly this virus is. But with this show, they're able to explain you right off the bat, and from there the show jumps into 2003, kind of changing the setting from the video game, and I believe the virus started in 2013 there, and I think it's a minor change that is able to work with the game. And I know there's some details that cannot do in the future, like there's a certain song that Joel will eventually sing that is not possible because it's a song that came out like in 2010 or 2011, which they won't be released. But Pedro Pascal is perfectly embodying Joe, and he's got his mannerism down, his raw, grease personality with those slight of moments of charm and humor that I always love about Joe. And really, they could have not done a better job in the casting department for Joe here. I also like King Tommy. Gabriel Luna is doing a good job, and I can't wait to see more of him as the show progresses. But then a big chunk of the first half of the episode is dedicated to Joe's daughter, Sarah. If you play the games, you know exactly what is going to be coming towards the middle half of the episode, and I was not ready for it. But I think even if you were someone who played the games and knew Sarah's fate, in the first episode, the show managed to do things that kind of expand further on her personality, her love of her father that just made that scene so much impactful. And the other stuff, I seen her go to town, take money from her father to fix his wall, something that he will never really take the time to do. Small hints of the world just starting to burn down. And I really love those little details they add in here, and that expands the story further. I'm also getting a little kick of just how many lines from the actual game they're taking for word for word and just putting it into the show.
Where did you get the money for this?
Drugs. I sell hardcore drugs.
Where'd you get the money for this?
Drugs. I sell hardcore drugs.
Now they do it so much throughout the first episode, and I'm sure there's going to be continued throughout the rest of the season. But getting to the moment where Sarah encounters one of the first infected, her neighbor, that he was in a wheelchair, and I'm loving this new shame they added to the custodies, because you may not heard that they made some change from the games. They're getting rid of the sport effects, and it's kind of a airborne virus that you need to wear gas masks sometimes in certain areas in the game. That was really pissing off some fans that were immediately just waiting to hate on this show without seeing what they're trying to do here and see the final results. And like those little tentacles or just whatever is sticking out of the mouth of the infested was horrifying. We live in an age now where zombie movies, zombie TV shows are dying of a dozen, and we see almost every cliche under the book. And I think The Last of Us here is really showing us how it could stand apart from that stuff. Now, again, they're not called zombies. I'm just saying that in general, that type of content. This first stage are infected that we got to see were terrifying, and they're only going to get more terrifying. I can't wait to see the clickers and some bloaters in here. And I also want to praise the show on his camera work. Sometimes I think it's really hard to copy the camera angles that you see in the video games, because it comes off like a video game, mainly because the time is all the time throughout a POV, and you see the hands in front of you and you can holding stuff off. Sometimes just in the video game just can't translate to any media without looking goofy. And at the surrounding, and but the shots here of Joe and Tommy driving in their truck, looking at the surrounding towns going into flames, those camera angles are directly pulled from the video games, and they work so beautiful in live action. Once we get past the heartbreaking death of Joe and his daughter, that I'm telling you, I knew it was coming, I saw it, but it still just hit you in the feels, and they did that so well. We get another Spanish scene here that they added on, and that was kind of a like, what's the point of this? But by the end of the episode, I thought it was brilliantly. We see a little kid that's just wandering about in the free roam area away from the close off town here, and they take him in. But they have strapped him, and they're testing to see if this kid is infected, where they need to place them, if at home, or they need to make him one of the burning bodies. And turns out the kid was infected. They tested him and came back red. And I think I didn't realize that this was until the end of the episode. It's something small that the shows was letting you know that there's a lot more people like Ellie down out there. And Ellie, as you see by the end of the episode, is immune, and she was beaten once before, which I can't wait to see that episode on that backstory. And we get a little hint of what is to come. And whatever Marlene asked about Riley, Ellie's face just turned off like ghostly.
Was Riley a terrorist?
But that's something I always thought about when playing The Last of Us. It's like, why is Elliot the only one mute? Where are some other mute people? She can be the only one of the, and this kid here is probably one of many of 100 people around the world that were getting killed off just because they tested positive. They could be infected, but they're not going to be turning into one of the infected. So I kind of just like how the show made it here that Ellie isn't one in a million phenomena. There's others out there. They are making the dumb mistake of killing them before realizing what they have, and that's where we get to see Ellie, who is chained up in a room for what it sounds like a couple of days, because they're testing out if she's really immune and it's not going to turn into one of the infected any day now. Now, I also want to praise the show on how well it's being paced right now. Some of the things they're letting us kind of live in the moment, breathe into that, and then other things are kind of breeze us by or jump us into the next scene. Like, I'm happy this episode was an hour and 20 minutes long, but also happy they knew where to give the time to the show, like where we go to see the aftermath of the faulty car battery being sold to Marlene, and those people just ending up there, and even Marlene being shot in the same spot she was shot in the game. Now, bringing me to the finale of the episode where Joe and Therese and Ellie are heading out away from the compound, going into this apocalyptic wasteland, and they encounter the man that Joe was selling drugs to Ellie. This right there, I think, was extremely powerful moment they added on, similar to the game, but it starts the same, but the scene ends differently. Now, the way they build the tension of the guy to test them is they are infected, leading up to Ellie, who she's holding a knife and she sticks with him in the leg, and he puts Joe in the exact position he was when his daughter Sarah was about to be shot by an armed man. And you can just feel the way the show is telling you Joe has thought about this moment for the last 20 years. He will play it every night, and what will he done differently to save his daughter Sarah? And we get exactly what Joe have done differently, and it take out all the anger he's had built up into, and what I think killed this man. And you also pair that with that beautiful cinematography and back shots of Ellie witnessing what Joe is doing for her protection. In that moment, I know Ellie now 100% trusts Joe and is going to stay by his side no matter what. And so quickly, now the show is able to build up that relationship and that connection with Joe and Ellie, and I'm loving this man. The video game curse has been broken for a while, but The Last of Us is another great adaptation, and I can't wait to see the following episode. I think it's going to be great. And so far, this first episode was incredible. It's just something you had to experience and witness. Now, I want you to leave in the comments down below, what do you think of the first episode? What was your favorite moments? And what do you think of the changes they are making? And if you like it, you didn't like it, and please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys later. Bye bye.